So, the aim of today's lesson, it's a bit different from a lot of our normal lessons. What we're aiming to do is to introduce some discussion, okay? I'm going to give you a problem, and here is the problem. Very little information in that problem. The only information I'm going to give you is the following. There are about 60 million people in the UK, and I want to know a best estimate from you of how many school teachers there are. All right, so you've all had a bit of a think, maybe got a few ideas or even just a few questions in your head. So the next step is we're going to share our ideas or our thoughts or our questions, the things that have first popped into our head, just with the person you're sitting next to. Again, about 5 minutes or so. Try to take turns, listen to each other as well as speaking. If your partner says something you really disagree with, then make sure you let them know.
Obviously, there'd be one head teacher, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
In every school. And sometimes there'd be 2 or 3 deputy head teachers, wouldn't there? In this case, in this school, we only have one.
Yeah. And one assistant head. And one assistant head.
And one assistant head as well, so we have to take into account
And
that as well.
if you put 30 pupils in each class, and one teacher teaching 30 pupils,
I think it's about 50,000 because, it's just a guess. Could be anything. I don't know how many schools there are.
Welcome to our group discussion.
How many out of the 60 do you think? I think about half,
In
possibly.
the UK, so maybe about 1 million to 3 million teachers, because there's going to be millions and millions, about 10 million kids.
How many? Yeah, how many of the 6 million would be kids?
It takes 2 adults
Think
to
about,
make
well,
one.
actually not just kids, but like kids and teenagers. That whole kind of.
That's 20 million.
Probably about half.
More than that, because that's covering 2 generations, isn't it?
I say half have got to be children.
Yeah, I agree with that, but
Yeah. And then there's about 30 in the class, in a normal class. So if you divide that, then you get about 1 million school teachers, don't you?
yeah, but
Then that doesn't seem very many. So perhaps then you're supposed to time it by the amount of schools.
it's in the UK, so I think it might be, but it's
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
Perhaps there's a few more. Yeah, but 1 million, if you think about it, is quite a lot,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but think about that, you've got all the other jobs in that people work for, so obviously there's going to be like a lot more in there, so I think it would probably work out to about 1 million.
Well, I think there's got to be about 30 million children.
What part of your life is in school? Come on, put some numbers to it, even the rough numbers. maybe.
First,
16 years.
Out of.
16. Oh, 100.
Okay, so try and link that back maybe to your total.
How is that going to help us in any way?
about 16.
So where's that going to lead you?
Before we go into our full-scale group discussion, what I want to do is come up with some useful rules which will help your discussion be productive. If someone just says something glib, you're going to say why, or how, or prove it, or something like that. You're going to challenge. If you disagree, I want you to tell each other that you disagree and try and say why. Back to your discussions. If you're really stuck, ask one of the people that's in your group to try and explain things for you.
We estimated that maybe around
half the country is
half the
adults and
country.
half the country is kids.
Yeah, roundabout. I mean that's only an estimate, so it could be more, could be less. But
About half the adults are probably working teachers.
yeah, maybe, yeah. If you think about it, there's quite a few adults that are out there that don't bother about teaching.
There's more kids than adults, so that means that there's...
How do you know?
This ratio here, what's this number about?
What do you think it's how many teachers to pupils there are in the school?
Okay, so 25 pupils, it requires one teacher. Yeah, that sounds fair enough, doesn't it? Yeah, okay. So, the thing I'm not quite convinced about here is that there are 30 million children, okay? Maybe think about that a bit more.
Yeah.
Because there's more generations of children. Yeah, but there are some adults who don't have children.
I do know how many
Yeah, but there's some who have like gigantic families.
Yeah, I know, but they compensate, so it's
Yeah, so
half.
average, yeah.
No, I don't think half. I would have thought it was, because if you think about
more
it,
than half.
I mean, all the family
Explain why you
tickets
think
are
more.
all 2 hours.
Why do you think more? Listen to me, wait a second. Why do you think more?
It's when do you? It's a question of when do you stop becoming a child?
When you're 3 or 4, you start going to school.
When you pay tax.
So how old is that? 18, 21?
Well, you finish uni, you can take lots of things. That's,
So I think 21. That's 3 generations of people.
that's true. That's about half though.
It's sort of like
80, that's like another
4 generations.
Yeah. It's about half.
So maybe it's about half. Maybe 25 and then
20, let's
Yeah.
do 25.
No, what I
And
mean
then you
is
20 for adults. So then,
that would make sense.
yeah.
and then we've worked it out.
Last couple of seconds scribbling on your paper or getting your thoughts together, then we're going to share them with the class. Now then, we can do this a variety of different ways. If anyone feels very brave and would like to be the first person to speak, anyone feel brave today?
We worked out that there was like a ratio of 2 adults to 3 children. So that would mean there was 35 million children to 25 million adults. And then we just guessed that there were 2.5 million teachers.
So we've got 2.5 million teachers and 35 million children. What sort of ratio of children to teachers would that give you? Just do rough. I don't mind if it's not. Okay, 17-ish. All right, Richard's going to explain the thoughts from this table.
Okay, so we said that there was 60 million people in the UK, and we estimated that it'd be half the amount for each, so there'd be 30 million children and then 30 million adults. And of course, we estimated that 1/3 of the population of adults would be teachers, and we calculated that it'd be 33,333 teachers altogether, approximately.
333,000. So roughly how many children per teacher would that give you? Can you do that? Make the numbers easier if you want.
Well, we said that it would be roughly about 30 children in each class.
Okay. Right, the group over here.
We figured out that there'd actually be more adults than children because there's more generations of adults. So we thought 45 million adults thereabouts and 15 million children. So we worked that out as a ratio in a class if they were adults, because there's 3/4 of the adults would be other jobs. So
because you've got 1 and 30 in the ratio, if 45 adults were doing the teaching job, then there would be 11 million teachers, we reckon.
Okay.
There's 1 adult per 30 kids in a
that's
class.
the ratio of 1 adult
Yeah.
to 30 children.
So we have an estimate of about 11 million teachers. Does that sound... The rest of you, are you convinced by that? Do you think it sounds about right, 11 million? So, roughly speaking, 1 in 5 people are teachers, okay? It'd be interesting to think about if you got in a lift with 10 people, 2 of them might be teachers.
We thought that you start school at 4, and you stay there for about 12 years.
And then 12 into 80 goes like 8 times.
So you have to find 1/8 of the population go to school.
1/8 is 60 million, 7.5 million teachers.
7.5 million teachers.
And so there's about 10 million children. And then there's like 2.5 million children aren't at school. So about 7.5 million school children. And then 7.5 million divided by 25 is 300,000.
300,000, okay. Anyone want to disagree with any of the other groups at all?
Yes. Because they said something about a third
of a third of the adults being teachers, and I don't think a third of all adults would be a teacher.
What do we all think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Seems a bit high, okay. So does anyone have a thought for maybe how many?
1/4 of people would... No, we said that 3/4 of people have other jobs. So only 1/4 of people would be teachers, approximately.
Just thinking in your tables, of our 10 rules, which do you think you're good at or you were best at today? And which things maybe you're no good at all or not very good? So just have a few moments to think about it, then I'll take some answers. Put your hands up when you're ready.
I think we gave everyone a chance to speak.
And we all builded on each other's ideas as well.
Yeah,
But we showed that we didn't agree and it said why and could back it up with evidence.
Which of the things do you find hardest to do? David?
I think build on what was said is the hardest.
Reaching an agreement in the end.
Reaching an agreement. Did you disagree?
No, in our table we didn't, but we had like all different answers. Nobody had the same answer in the class.
Yeah. Well done. It's time for lunch.